Hello and welcome to Macro Decode. Recently, the International Labour Organization released a report which said that artificial intelligence will disproportionately affect women's jobs more than men's. It also finds that AI training based on biased and incomplete data will increase gender issues at workplaces. To tell us how such a situation will affect Indian women, we have Rituparna Chakraborty, partner, regional lead India, True Search. Welcome to the show, Ritu. Before discussing this ILO report, can you give us a broad view about the employment of women in India? Also, where do Indian women stand in terms of labor participation rate when compared to other countries?
I think India's labor part of, first and foremost, thanks so much for inviting me for this. I think India's female labor force participation, and I've been talking about it for years now, has always been uh, quite low. I think it's probably one of the lowest worldwide, if not the absolute lowest. So, and that's always been a worrying factor. While I have seen some periodic labor force survey data which suggests that it might have gone up a little bit and is hovering around a third, but I think it's still very low and quite pathetic. So I think just to give you a color on the sectoral concentration, agriculture continues to be one of the largest employers of women, but largely most of these people are informally engaged. Almost 55-60% of the working women are in agriculture, but mostly formal or unpaid. You see quite a few of them in the manufacturing. Besides that, you'll see them in services, which is like education teachers, healthcare, nurses, ASHA workers, and of course, retail, hospitality, and not to forget the domestic work segment. In the white collar, the concentration that's emerging for women would be a little bit in IT services, in BPM, HR, finance, but very much skewed still towards entry and mid-level jobs.
Oh, okay. So now coming to the report, it says that occupations dominated by women are almost twice likely to be exposed to Gen AI compared to male-dominated ones. So the report says around 29% of female-dominated occupations are exposed to Gen AI against just 16% of male-dominated occupations. Which are these occupations, and is this global situation same in the case of India?
So I think globally, some of the roles which stand exposed right now definitely are clerical roles, administrative roles, like data entry assistant, customer service, big one, BPO call centers, content and documentation role, basic accounting, HR ops. Of course, these are roles where men, women are exposed equally. However, given that some of these sectors employ more women, hence it affects women. From an India context, I think it's even more relevant given that India has about 1.5 to 2 million in BPO, BPM kind of job with a very high share of female workforce, which is almost like 35-40%. Very large base in clerical support and routine service roles. So honestly, from my perspective, one can conclude that the trend is valid, of course, and in some cases amplified a bit in India. So these roles are typically task heavy, they're repetitive in nature, hence easiest for Gen I augmentation.
So also, can you tell me about the men-dominated sectors, which are going to be less affected by AI?
I think the least exposed sectors, whether it's globally or in India, would be construction, manufacturing, shop floor roads, logistics, transportation, mining, heavy industry, at least in the foreseeable future. And largely, and the reason for them being least affected is quite obvious. I think they require physical presence, manual dexterity, real world unpredictability, and hence really these roles at this point seems much like. From an India nuancing perspective, I think these sectors are already heavily male dependent, like almost 80% plus workforce are male. So AI disruption risk is clearly this is one of the ways to prove that the AI disruption risk is unevenly gendered here.
And also the report says that underrepresentation of women in STEM jobs or jobs which are related to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is one of the factors that is leading to this kind of a situation. In India, do you think women are underrepresented in STEM jobs?
Interestingly, that's not the case. I think education pipeline is strong. Almost 40 43% of STEM graduates in India are women, and it's one of the highest globally, which is a great news. Workforce reality drops sharply because only 25. So that's another problem. So while 43% women are STEM graduates, but when it comes to their representation in workplaces, that is still low. It's almost 25-30% in tech, even lower in core engineering, AI, and leadership roles. So there is definitely a leakage which is happening, and that leakage is happening at predominantly mid-career level, where there is drop-off on account of marriage or childcare. India doesn't have clearly defined re-entry pathways. There are, of course, cultural and workplace biases, which are one of the reasons that this is happening. So, interestingly, in India's case, we don't have really a pipeline problem. It has a retention and progression problem.
That means we have women who are educated in STEM, but when it comes to employment, their share is much lower.
Said why that leak is happening is what I mentioned a bit earlier.
Right. The report also brings a very crucial observation. It says that the systems which are trained on biased and incomplete data will be disadvantageous to women in recruitment, pay decisions, credit scoring, and access to other services. So we already have a lot of gender biases at workplaces. Are we going to see gender biases deepening with AI? Do you think so?
Highly probable if unchecked. So evidence globally shows that hiring algorithms are favoring male profiles. Account of the fact is Gen AI is dependent on data, and data historically has been biased towards males because that's you have more data points from male perspective. That's one reason. Credit scoring disadvantaging women with nonlinear careers. From a India risk factor perspective, I think informal work history, which essentially means that poor data visibility for women, because informal work have gone unrepresented. There is really no account or record of it. Also, there are lower digital and financial footprints here with relation to women. So that's another one. So from an outcome risk perspective, I think AI could scale existing biases faster and invisibly until and unless somebody is paying attention to the nuancing. So AI itself is not inherently biased. It learns from biased systems and data.
Right. And technology is not biased, but then, people who are training it are.
And the data, most of the data are dominated from a male perspective.
The report says that with the right policies, social dialogue, and gender responsive design, we can avoid reinforcing such discrimination. For this, the involvement of governments, employers, and workers in training AI is important. How far this is happening in India? Are we actually even aware of this threat?
So the current reality is that awareness is very nascent and fragmented. There has been some progress, like from a government perspective. There is an India AI mission. There is a digital public infrastructure talk that's on. From a corporate perspective, there are some DEI policies, but AI plus gender lens is very weak. Honest, I don't think anyone has gotten to that yet. What's missing is a structured gender audit of AI systems. From a government perspective, I think mandate algorithmic audits for bias like ESG compliance. You can incentivize women in AI skilling programs at scale. You can build gender tagged data sets via public digital infrastructure. From an industry perspective, I would say that why not embed gender by design in AI systems, audit hiring, pay and promotion algorithms as often as you can. Also create returnship programs for women in tech. And just to say from an overall ecosystem perspective, why not include women workers in AI training data sets and testings? Encourage multi-stakeholder dialogue, which is government, industry, and academia who actually pay attention to all of that's going on and the possible risk.
So do we need some policies to, address this across all the segments, like, the government, the industry, the people who are there, the data sets, everything together? Do we need a kind of policy and a framework for this?
I'm not a big believer that you have to jump into policy. First and foremost, there has to be an acknowledgement. There needs to be awareness, and thereon there has to be a willingness, a clear intent. I am forever apprehensive on jumping onto the policy bandwagon. I don't know how many people are even thinking about this possible challenge.
Yeah.
And one of the issues is that while we talk a lot about AI, very few people actually know what is it, how you want to
That's
leverage it, whether it's in organizations or in a larger scheme of governance or building the country as a whole. I
yeah.
think we're still at a very, very superficial stage. But yeah, I mean, some good signs, but I'm not somebody who would love to right now suggest policy changes around this.
So at this point of time, what will you suggest? What should be done?
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple. AI will not create gender inequality,
Yeah.
but it can either correct it or
Right.
confound it. So the choice India makes now will define whether AI becomes an equalizer or an amplifier of bias.
Right. Yeah. So that was Rituparna Chakraborty talking about how AI can probably have gender bias and can probably go against the gender, but how we can make a change as well. If we take the right decisions at the right time. Thank you for joining with me, Ritu.
Thank you.